Jared, if you search for a job, you might find a job. Any questions? That's really all it is.
We are excited to talk today about job searching.
Yes, we are.
We had a good response from our last vlog. We're glad that you guys enjoyed it, but we had a big request from a lot of people.
We had a lot of people say, hey, well, what if I need to find a job? What if I'm the seeker, not the seekee?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly the words they use.
And so we want to give you guys some tips and tricks on how to land a job if you're job seeking. And you know what? The purpose of a resume, it all starts with a resume. And a resume is designed simply to get you a phone call. Yeah. Now, statistically, when people look at your resume, they give you about 5 seconds. And you also are about 1 in 100 candidates on average. Yeah. So you have 5 seconds to make a real impression. Now we're talking disruption here.
Yeah, we are.
How do you disrupt a resume, Blake?
I think you need to make sure that you're using proper verbiage, right? I mean, when you're looking for a job, if you're applying for a job using your resume, if you're trying to catch it, use words like explosion. Just kidding, don't use that. But you can use words that are fit to that position, but something that's more descriptive, right? Use your adjectives.
So you look at the job description, you find those key words, those key terms that they're looking for. If you're applying for a sales position, you want to put sales, or maybe they call it account management, and you put account management. Yeah. If they're looking for a developer, what kind of language do they write that code in, and put that where your experience is if you have that. So like you've got to put those keywords everywhere. And the resumes that we've helped people create, at the very beginning, you put a small career profile or highlight of what you do, followed by a list of bullet points. And those bullet points are basically the key words that the recruiter is looking for.
I don't have time to look through the whole thing. I just need something that's going to catch me quick.
Yeah.
And here's the other question I have. Should I ever use the same resume more than once?
Never.
Okay, so what I mean by that is if I'm applying for multiple jobs, I should never just say, hey, you know what, this resume, one fits all, right? Every job is going to be different, and there's going to be different things that you're going to need to represent in each job description. So when you're handing in your resume, never use the same resume more than once.
So a good example is the use of the term employee, team member, associate. Yeah. If you know in the job description what they call their employees, team members, associates, or whatever it might be, use that term, right? You want to use the words that they're looking for so that they can say, oh, holy cow, in these 5 seconds, I'm curious to know more about this candidate. Yeah. Now, some of the time, Blake, the resume is not good enough. You don't do a good enough job, but there is a secret. And your secret is that you can bypass a terrible resume by networking. Yeah. Networking is such an important thing to do. So what's your experience with networking?
You know, and the funny thing is that most jobs I've ever received or I've ever, been able to get have been based upon my networking with people.
Oh, yeah.
Like very rarely do I ever, have to go, and I don't want this to sound bad, but there's been a lot of times in my life because I've networked so well, I've never had to actually apply for the job. Yeah. People have come to me. And so my experience with that has been always, hey, look, if you know the right people, if you go, talk to people, get yourself out there. Network through LinkedIn. That's a huge thing. Okay. LinkedIn, if you're not using LinkedIn and you're looking for a job, you're doing it wrong. You have to use LinkedIn because not only do I get to get referrals from LinkedIn, but it's also an opportunity for me to kind of rub elbows with people. Yeah. So when I'm applying for a job, it's not just a matter of submitting your resume and applying. It's a matter of, hey, I was sending my resume, but look, guess what? Jared, he might be the hiring manager for that company. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to research who is the hiring manager for that company. Who is the recruiter? Who is, the XYZ position? I can find that information out, and then I can contact those people.
Yeah. So in order to network your way into an interview, we want to recommend that you contact the recruiter and the hiring manager, 2 different people most of the time, at least 3 different ways and up to 5 different ways. So what that means is you apply online through the applicant tracking system and the recruiter will see you. That's one touch point. You then want to network with people internally so that they will go to those people and they will say, hey, have you heard about Blake Beard? He's an incredible candidate. Somebody you need to talk to. I can vouch for him. And then you want someone from a different department to come and say, hey, have you heard about Blake Beard? He's incredible. And the recruiter's like, what is going on? And then you want another person to come. If you can do that, if they can be told about you 3 to 5 different ways, you're almost guaranteed to get an interview. So there's a couple quick ways you can do this on LinkedIn. If you don't have any connections within that company, then reach out. Send an initial invitation. You're limited to how many characters you have, but just say, hey, I noticed you work at this company. Seems like a great place to work. I'd love to connect and learn more about your experience. If they accept that, then you can reach out and you can ask these questions. Yeah. What are the challenges you're dealing with in the company? Who's doing the recruiting? Who's the hiring manager? Any tips to get my resume in the right hands? And then you're networking yourself into a position where you previously had no contacts. So not knowing someone there is not an excuse with LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach out to anybody. But here's the other part of this. Like, when it comes to networking, networking is great, but the other thing is what happens then if they say, yeah, hey, I got your resume to the right hands, they want to have you come in. If I go in completely unprepared, then I've got some real issues at hand. And I'm a complete fraud. So one of the things I highly recommend, and of course a lot of people do this, but they don't do it enough, you need to know about that company. The great thing about today, the age that we live in, is that there is information everywhere. Facebook, again, LinkedIn, YouTube. There are a lot of companies that have information that you can actually access directly through social media or any other media outlet. There are a lot of opportunities.
Now let's be honest with the Silicon Slopes as well. There's so many fast-growing tech companies that are popping up that YouTube is a phenomenal resource to research, because these CEOs and people that you're meeting with in these startups frequently do speaking engagements and are out there marketing their company. And so you need to research the company and the people you're going to be meeting with. Right? And even before you reach out to the hiring manager, once you know who that person is, do research on them. Find those similar connections. Maybe you went to school the same place. And you also want to make sure that you're learning what the position needs. So when you get that interview, which is the goal, right, of the resume and the networking, once you get that interview, you got to be prepared. If you can, in the interview, show the hiring manager the number one problems they're dealing with, because you have found out through networking, and two, how you are the solution to those issues, you're going to get a job offer.
Well, it becomes a dialogue at that point, right? Yeah. It's an opportunity for us to have a conversation. Interviews are super intimidating, right? It's
they're very intimidating.
I don't do them, right? Because I just get nervous. But I think it's more about having a conversation with people, right? Yeah. Because, again, if you can go in there prepared and know exactly what you're going to talk about, you can steer the conversation, right?
So, when people, most recruiters have a list of questions they go through. Question. Our advice to you to be disruptive in this is that you should stop those questions by asking them questions. So when they say, tell us about an experience working with this, you can say, well, I have a question. How often does that come up? Or what's a scenario when you've had a need to address that? And then all of a sudden they start giving you information, which gives you the ability to answer it better. And this back and forth dialogue starts going instead of question, answer. So like the dialogue, it puts you at ease, it puts them at ease, and it makes you stand out from those other people that you're recruiting or interviewing against.
Yeah, and they're going to look at you and say, man, we have to have this person, right? Because you're going to make that kind of impact when you're having that dialogue, when you're steering that conversation, when you're asking those intelligent questions, not just going in with a prepared question, one or two. You actually have those educated questions that you're going to go in with. And one thing I will mention really quickly is one of the things that scare people is the salary conversation, right?
Everybody doesn't know. No one knows how to bring it up.
No, it's always just like, I don't want to be look like the bad person for bringing it up. But let me tell you, I once heard this ancient, I guess you could say, phrase that helps me remember this. It goes like that. It might have been Confucius. It said, the blamer, the flamer. so the first person to speak is usually the one that loses, right? And so Confucius said that. It's really inappropriate. It's very juvenile, but it's true. Like the blame or the flame, right? The first person to speak is the one who loses. So let them bring that up. Let them ask you, and at that point you can say, well, this is what I require. This is what my needs are.
And we could talk forever about negotiating, but that point is so true. Don't bring it up until they bring it up. And when they bring it up, be prepared to have the conversation. And 2 quick suggestions on how to have that conversation. 1, you can either say, here's what I'm currently making, or 2, you could say, this is what it would take to get me to be interested in your company. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of figure that out. But negotiating is a whole interesting thing. But be patient. Yeah. I mean, enjoy the interview experience and process. And the other thing is you never know what's going to happen during it. Like, you may be overqualified, underqualified, but you don't know how many candidates they have. You don't know what they're looking for. You don't know how impressed they could be with you. So, like, go through the process, blow their socks off so that they say, we have to have this person. And maybe we'll pay what it takes to get him, even if it's more than we were willing to.
Yeah. You can do it. I have full faith and belief in you that you can do it.
Okay, go out there and be disruptive in your applying for jobs, in your resumes, in your networking, in your interviews, in your negotiations. And as you have questions, please comment on our channel. We'd be happy to answer them. And if you're really in need of assistance, hit us up, and we'd love to help you with your search.
Yeah, one more last bit of advice. If the mug is empty, fill it.
Deep.
Don't forget to subscribe.